jockeys and everyday Australians shocked by the senseless cruelty.
Laura Cheshire is a jockey and she watched her beloved former ride War Ends bolted on the head when that story went to air, and she joins us now. Laura, I suppose the first thing we need to say is that we're really sorry. It must have been incredibly hard for you to watch that and really distressing. What was going through your mind as you watched that vision?
I had a phone call from a friend in racing to watch the program. Obviously I didn't know that War Ends was going to be on there, so watching the program was hard enough, being in the racing industry and being in it because I love horses, but seeing that name come up and then watching that footage was just devastating.
Laura, what did you think was going to happen to War Ends after you stopped riding him?
The trainer that had him, she really loved the horse, and she does her best to rehome these horses when they finish racing into show homes, because she used to be a show rider herself and she sort of wants the best for these horses. So she on-sold War Ends to a show home, and War Ends from that show home was on-sold to a horse dealer. From the horse dealer he was on-sold to somebody else. From her he was on-sold to somebody else, and then I finally tracked him at his fourth home along the line. She then got in contact with me and let me know that the horse needed to be rehomed as she was selling her farm. A lady came along and she said that she really was interested in the horse. She went out, met the horse at the property where he was living. The horse was exchanged with no money paid. I was in touch with this woman constantly, and the last time that I spoke to her about the horse, she said that she had lent him to a friend, and the last message that I sent to her was, "Can you please send me the contact details of the person who now has War Ends?" And she never replied. She disconnected her Facebook, and I saw the footage on TV of the horse getting a captive bolt to his head.
So who are you more angry at the moment, Laura? Is it the racing industry, or is it the people at the knackeries and the abattoirs and the horrific abuse that these horses have to endure before their death?
Oh, I'm definitely angry at the knackeries. They've got standards that they should adhere to. If those knackeries had glass walls, would they be treating the horses in the way that they do? And that's the way that the horses should be treated, as if they were standing inside glass walls with people watching on. You know, these are loved horses that have come out of an industry where people have looked after them and cared for them, and they've fallen down the ladder.
Laura, if you had the chance, what would you like to say to these workers in the knackeries who seem to take such delight in the abuse of these animals?
I wouldn't speak to them. I'd put them into a storage container and I'd drop them in the ocean, because that's what they deserve. People who can't treat animals with respect shouldn't work with animals to start with. But how do these people treat their children when they go home? That's the question. How do these people go home to their families when that's how they can treat racehorses that have done no wrong to them?
The racing industry seems to be saying that it's kind of beyond their jurisdiction, it's beyond their control once it reaches that point, and so in a way they're not responsible for what we've seen, some of those images that we've seen. Do you buy that?
I don't think anyone wants to take responsibility here, and somebody's got to step up to the plate. You know, these horses need to have a safe place to go when they're finished racing. That's the long and short of it. Money needs to come out of our prize money to go into a welfare fund for these horses. The problem comes down to there's too many horses and not enough homes.
Well, there's a lot at stake. Obviously, the welfare of the animals, perhaps the welfare of the whole racing industry, Laura. So this is a really, really big conversation that you've now contributed to. Thank you very much for doing that. I know it was difficult for you. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really interesting to see how hard she worked to try and track that horse as it went to its fourth owner, and only then did she lose control of where it went. I think the thing we can all agree on from that story is that the abattoirs and the knackeries were abhorrent in their practices and they need to change straight away. But then you've got to look all the way back up the chain. And I think Laura's idea about creating a fund that takes from the winnings, the upside, when the industry's making money and pays for their retirement, is a really good one as well.
And these animals are defenceless. When Barry O'Farrell said to us earlier this evening that, you know, it's a bit like footballers. When they leave the industry, they've sort of got to go off and do their own thing. These animals don't have that option. They don't get to keep the money that they've made for the industry.
Or have lucrative media careers.
All the things that come off that.
Yeah, we'll have to take a break, but we'll be back very soon.
Good enough.